Hi there, it's Jay here, and this is the second part of our LAMP stack series. In the previous one, we looked at how to install the technologies in the stack, and in this one, we'll be looking at a little bit of the configuration of those technologies. So, the first one being Linux, there's two things that I want to show you in the VirtualBox. So, first, click on the settings option here and you will see another window open up, and in here you have to go to network. After opening the network subtab, we will see options like this, and if we look at here we could see an option like attached to. So there is a drop down menu here with a few options, so you need to set this to NAT if you want internet access to the virtual machine or your operating system that is running virtually. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, you could see there is another subtab called shared folders. So what this actually does is, when you are inside the virtual machine, there will not be any drag and drop option. What I mean by that is, if you have a file in the virtual machine and you want it to be copied, or you want it to be in the original host operating system, you can just drag it and drop it on your host system from the virtual machine, like you would do in Windows, from one folder to another. So this is the workaround for that. So what this does is, this will create an folder in your host machine and your virtual machine, and whatever you put in the folder will be actually accessible from both of the operating systems. So if you put something like a text file or a file in the host file in that specific folder, you could access that from your virtual machine and vice versa. So to set up that, you could actually click the shared folders subtab, and you'd see a icon like this. You could press that and you could give a folder path. I am going to select one. So I'm going to create a new folder and I am going to name it test, and I am going to press enter. After you give the folder path and folder name, you actually have to click this option or turn this option on, and then you press OK. Then you press this OK. Then you start your virtual machine, and when the virtual machine is up, you could actually see a folder in that name also on your virtual machine. So I'm going to press start. So as you could see, the folder has showed up on both of our operating systems. So this is the Windows system and this is the Kali virtual machine. So I'll be creating two files in each of the operating systems to see if they show up in the other one. So I'm going to create one here first. I am going to type something here. I'm going to save it into that folder. So as you could see, when the file is created in the folder, it also showed up in the other one. So when I access it, the content will be same. Now I am going to create one here and see if it shows up on our Kali Linux virtual machine. So I'm going to type something here. I'm going to save it. I'm going to close it. So one thing with Kali virtual machine, you have to refresh that folder, or you have to just open another folder and come back to that folder, and it will show up. Now we will look at the content of this text file, and this is what we did on our what we ended on our Windows system. So I'm going to close it. So that's how you share files between your virtually host operating system and your host operating system. So the reason we do this is, if you try to drag this file to a folder, you will get an error message like this. You can do it the other way around also. So if I do this, it's also going to produce an error. See that? This is how to share files between your host VM and your virtually host VM. Now let's move on to the next utility, which is Apache. So in the previous one, you saw that when you start Apache and go to your local host address in your browser, you will actually get a dashboard from Apache. So now I will show you a folder in which you would create and put your HTML, PHP, CSS, JavaScript files, which Apache will look at and render it into your browser. So I'm going to show you that folder. So I'm going to go to that folder now. It's in the location /var/www/html. So we are in that folder. So what happens here is when you actually go to your browser and type your address or your localhost address or your IP address and press enter, the Apache server is actually going to go to this specific folder, and it will actually render the appropriate or the correct or the specific HTML or CSS or JavaScript or PHP file to your browser. So I will show you an example. So I am going to create a file here. I will show you why I named it index.html. So I'm going to press enter. Sorry, you also need your sudo permission, or you need to be a root user. Now I'm going to press enter. It's going to ask for password. Now I am going to type some HTML inside that. So I'm going to access or do this by the nano text editor. So I actually did write some HTML code in that file. So now I am going to see if now I am going to see in my browser if Apache actually renders that. So I'm going to open my browser. Now I am going to go to the localhost address. So I'm going to type localhost and press enter. As you could see, it automatically rendered that file when I type localhost. So the reason why it did that is because I named it index.html. So when you name a file at index.html, Apache will automatically recognize or identify it as the home page, and it will automatically display that when you run localhost without any other directory or subdirectory name. So if there is another file that have had a different name, so I'm going to create another file. So I have created another file called homepage.html. Even if I refresh the web page here, it will only show the file, or it will only render the file index.html. If you want to see the other file, or if you want to see any other of the HTML web pages, you need to specify that name here on your URL with a slash and the name of that file. So in our case, it's homepage.html. You need to give the extension and press enter. So you will get that specific home page rendered in your. Let's say you are doing a big project or a project on something, and you have a folder somewhere else on your desktop or somewhere in any other folders, and you are saving all of your code in that folder, and you don't want to copy that from that folder to this folder location each and every time you want to run it. So you want Apache to render your web application or your code onto the browser from that specific folder. So there's a way you could do that. I'm going to show you that. You need to change a line in a specific folder, sorry, in a specific file. So I am going to access that file now, and the location of that file is etc apache 2 sites dash available slash 000 dash default dot config, and I am going to press enter. And in here you could see this location mentioned here, and you need to change this to the specific folder location of the project folder that you need Apache to look at. You would change this to the file location that you are planning on storing all of your web page files or web page codes. So after that you would press, you have to replace this by the way. So after that you want to press Ctrl O to save it, and it will show you the name, and you press enter. Now press Ctrl X to exit. So now you might want to restart your Apache for this to take place, because you changed something in, in your in the configuration file. For that to get in effect, you need to restart that specific utility or that specific technology. So after you restart your Apache, it will actually start to look at that specific folder instead of the default one. So that's it for Apache. Now let's get into the next utility, which is MySQL. By default, MySQL have a security script that can be run after installing it on your system. That actually is going to make your MySQL installation a little bit more secure. So what this does is, it is actually going to this is optional by the way, so this is completely optional. So what this does is, it is actually going to ask you for a few things, and by the answer or reply you give, it is actually going to change a few of the configurations, the default configurations, which is actually going to make your application or MySQL a little bit more secure from known vulnerabilities. So to do this, you are going to need sudo permission first. So I'm going to type sudo, then you are going to type MySQL underscore secure underscore installation, and then I'm going to press enter. So this is going to ask for your root password. It is because we set it when we installed it. So I'm going to give my password. You will get an option like this. So what this does is, it is actually going to implement a password checker, the password strength checker to be exact. So what this does is, if you enable it, it is only going to allow the other users or anyone to set only strong passwords for databases or anything like that which requires a password. So in this case, I'm going to press Y, which is actually which actually mean yes, but I would recommend you set it to yes, or enable it, because it is going to make it more secure. So I'm going to press Y and enter. So as you could see the different password validation policies. So you could just read this and you will understand that. And in this case, I'm going to set this to medium. So I'm going to press 2 and press enter. So this is now going to check my root password, the password that I set when installing it, and it gave me the password strength, which is actually only 25. So I think it's in percentage, I'm not sure about that, but I think it's not that secure. But in my case, I'm not going to change it now, so I'm going to press N and enter. So the next section is that it is actually saying that there is an anonymous user that is set in MySQL by default. So what this means is, there will be a user that is set by default for the function of production. So while you are developing a web application, it is going to use that user, or the developers could use that user. So this is asking if you want to remove that user or not. So in this case, I'm going to not remove it, so I'm going to press N. Then you could think about this and make a decision by yourself. Don't follow me, you don't have to. So you just have to think for yourself, read it, or if you don't understand, just Google it or ask someone who knows about this and make appropriate decisions. So the next option is that if you want to allow the root user to log in remotely. So what the difference is that, if the root user want to make any difference or make any change to the system or to the database, it can only be done locally, and it cannot be done remotely from other devices in the network. So in my opinion, this is to be set to yes, because only the local host or only the one who made the system should only be able to access the root account, and no one else should, and it should not be accessed from any other devices. So I'm going to press you have to set the so you are supposed to set this to yes, but in my case, I'm going to set this to no. So the next option is that it is telling us that there is an database called test, which is actually intended for the purpose of production and testing. So if you want to remove that or not, so I'm going to press no, but you should if you are going to push this into production. So I'm going to press N and enter. So So this is the last and final step. So what this is saying that if I press Y and enter, it is actually going to reload the privilege table, and it is going to reset or like reload all of the settings. So everything we changed so far will come into effect. So I'm going to press Y and press enter. So it's saying that it's successfully done. So we have run the security script, and now it should be set. So next we are going to type MySQL, then I am going to type dash u, then I am going to specify which user I want to get in as, or which user I am going to be. So I'm going to entering as the root, so I'm going to type root, then I'm going to put a dash and p, which actually is going to prompt me for the password. So I'm going to press enter. He's going to ask for the password. I'm going to give the password. Then when I press enter, we are inside MySQL. You could see the terminal changed to MySQL. So this is where you are going to create the databases, create tables, get into databases, select databases, select tables, insert values, and do all of the stuff you do in a database. So after you complete doing everything in MySQL, to exit out of this or exit out of MySQL into the normal terminal, you have to type exit and press enter. So now you are out of MySQL, and if you want to get into MySQL again, you could just use the previous command. So that's it for MySQL. And for PHP, which is our last utility, there isn't much you have to do to configure it. You could literally just install it like we did in the previous video, and you could straight up start using it, write code for it, execute it, run it, and that's pretty much it for PHP. And that's it for our video. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.